Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this very special event celebrating COPE Galway's 60 years of service to the Galway community.
It's wonderful to see so many friends, colleagues, partners and supporters here today. So many of you have been part of COPE Galway's journey across the decades. I want to especially welcome Michael D. Higgins, former President of Ireland. And of course, Sabina has been a long-standing patron of COPE Galway, and we're hoping that she'll be able to join us in a little while. This afternoon will take us on a journey, past, present and future. We'll begin with a welcome from the Chairman of the Board, reflecting on 60 years of impact and acknowledging those who have supported our work. Our Assistant CEO, Martin O'Connor, will then present COPE Galway's history over 6 decades. Next, a panel of our heads of service will share insights from the front line, highlighting today's challenges and the resilience, professionalism and compassion that shape our work every day. Our CEO, Michael Symth, will speak about the future, the next chapter in service, advocacy and community action. We are particularly honoured to welcome Dr. Michael Ryan, former Deputy Director General of the World Health Organization, who will reflect on global challenges and leadership and on how organisations like COPE Galway can continue to respond with courage and vision. It promises to be an afternoon of reflection, gratitude and forward thinking, celebrating what has been achieved and looking to what lies ahead. And now, to formally open our commemorative event, it is my pleasure to invite Pádraig Timon, Chairman of COPE Galway's Board of Directors, to address you.
Okay, I'm going to take my glass. Thank you very much, Sharon. Okay, my name is Pádraig Timon. As I say, I'm Chair of COPE Galway, and it's a great honour on behalf of the directors of COPE Galway to welcome you to this commemorative event marking 6 decades of COPE's service to the people of Galway, COPE Galway's service to the people of Galway. Today is about saying thank you. It's about reflecting back, but very much about our hope and our vision for the future. I can say as Chair of COPE Galway, we are very privileged to have the people we have, and I'll talk about that a bit later. So we are certainly set up very much for the future. But we are here to celebrate 60 years of community. 60 years where COPE Galway has stood with people at the most challenging times of their lives, people who need shelter, people who need protection, or people who just need somebody to say hello. What began as a small 1965 volunteer-led organisation today is a large organisation providing services to thousands of people every year across our homelessness, our domestic support and abuse, and our older people services. I want to talk a little bit about the impacts of the work we do, or the impacts of the work that COPE Galway do. As I said, on countless personal journeys, we have had an impact on people's lives. And behind every statistic is a person. And we need to remember that. And, you know, these people have had very difficult times, but they show dignity, they show courage, and they show strength. And we're there with them. That's really what we're about. I also want to say that this doesn't happen in isolation. And we are blessed with the staff we have. We have staff that are thoroughly professional. I think it's very important that we acknowledge our staff are professional people. But they combine that with heart, with a dedication, and it makes a difference because of that combination. They work in very challenging environments every day. And often I think it's the things we don't see. It could be the hand on the shoulder of somebody tonight who has no bed. It could be saying hello to somebody who's lonely and having a cup of tea and a chat. Or it could be saying to a woman and kids tonight, you're safe tonight. And that is what COPE is about. And our staff face those kind of challenges every single day. And their strength and their perseverance to do it is why we're here today. I also want to speak about our volunteers. I think they represent the very best of what we are in Galway. There's many of them here today and they've been with us for years. And every single day they give their contribution to us. We really couldn't survive without them. We have funders and we have partners, the state, our local authorities, philanthropic organisations, community groups, who sustain us. They provide us with funding to do the work we do every single day. But increasingly importantly, they allow us to do research and to come up with innovative ways to respond to the challenges that are changing every single day. So we really, really appreciate that funding, and we hope to develop further models with you into the future. To donors and supporters in Galway and further afield, your contributions often make the difference, and it means that we can have a more deep and meaningful impact in the work that we get done. So we really appreciate that, and long may it continue. And then to the people of Galway, there was a famous hurler who said that, I love you. But for Galway, Galway is about COPE. We were founded here, we're shaped here, we're sustained by Galway. So COPE Galway and Galway are synonymous. And we absolutely are aware of the trust and the responsibility you place on us. And we never, ever, ever take that for granted. And we really appreciate that. I want to welcome our guest of honor, former President Michael D. Higgins. And we hope that Sabina Coyne Higgins can join us in a moment. Michael D., I've never had the pleasure until now to meet with you. It was a great pleasure. I have to say, I really, really enjoyed your conversation with Tommy Tiernan recently on the television. And also the RT, look back on your career, because it reminded us all of a career dedicated to social justice, to community inclusion, to the importance of the human and to the importance of the person. And to reminding us also that success of a country is not measured by material. It is measured by how we cherish people, and actually how we cherish the most vulnerable people. So thank you very much. Your presence here today means a huge amount to us. I hope Sabina can join us. As Sharon said, she's our patron and she's been a steadfast supporter of us. And it's very, very important to us that she supports our mission, that she gives us belief in what we're doing. And we also know that she has an awful lot of contribution and advocacy to the culture, to different charities and cultures, and to social inclusion. So please pass on our thanks, and hopefully we will meet her later on. 60 Years in Galway is being launched today. This is our book where we chronicle the history of the organisation from those small group of like-minded people who came together in 1965, and they decided we needed to do something. And that spirit is still in Galway. But the book also chronicles some good stories, and also how our services and how we've developed our services over the years in response to the evolving challenges that society bring and the changes in Ireland and in our society. But the core spirit of those people who came together at the very beginning remained our bedrock, that it's coming together with a common cause and seeking out to do good. I have a little bit more to say, but basically looking back allows us to reflect and say we've done some good, but we're really, really an ambitious group here. And we're led by a fantastic team who are very, very ambitious to research and to do a lot of thought about how we tackle the challenges that face our society today. And the challenges in our community are increasingly complex, but they're ever changing. And that's really something that has changed a great deal. It's continuously evolving. We have what's called housing insecurity. We have the terrible scourge that's hard to believe continues of domestic abuse. We have social isolation, our loneliness. Loneliness has become a big, big challenge for us in our society. We have a widening poverty gap in our society, and I think we need to talk and have a conversation with ourselves about that. But again, the guiding principles of our founders remain collective action, rooted in dignity and in compassion. It can transform lives. So thank you for being with us on part of this journey. I think one of the things about COPE is, we reflect an awful lot about what is great in Ireland. And I think at times we should say we have a great country. And COPE and Ireland at its best, where people come together with a firm determination to make a change, we can do incredible things together. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to officially open the commemorative event and to invite you to join us in celebrating 60 years of impact, of solidarity, and of community. And now I'll bring you over and invite Martin O'Connor to talk to you a little bit about 60 years in Galway. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Pádraig. I need the glasses, unfortunately. It's an honour to have the opportunity to give you an overview of the history of the organisation since its foundation 60 years ago. For some here today, this organisation will be Galway Social Service Council. For others, it will be Galway Voluntary Social Services. For most people now, it is COPE Galway. Similarly, some of you will associate the organisation with its work supporting older people in our community, others with responding to domestic abuse, and others with tackling homelessness in Galway. And for many, you will associate the organisation with people who have benefited from its work, people who have volunteered their time, and people who have worked within the organisation. So over the next 15 minutes, I hope to do justice to the work of Liam Alex Heffron, who compiled the history of the organisation in a publication, a summary version of which will be available at the end of today's event. I think Liam Alex is here with us today. Liam Alex just here on my left. Liam Alex is a local historian whom we engage to research and write this history. As we reflect on this history, it is important to remember that it represents the legacy of many people. Some here today, some unable to be with us, but especially those who are no longer with us, some of whom had the vision to establish the organisation in 1965 to make a difference. Others, through their contribution as volunteers, staff, or directors, helped make that difference happen. This history is also the legacy of the community of Galway, most importantly, of people who were supported through the work of the organisation and who continue to support it. Something to be mindful is that some of the language, terms that served their use in previous years, are now unhelpful in ensuring that all people are treated with respect and humanity that they deserve. However, so you get a true sense of the different periods of the organisation's history, you will hear some of this language over the next few minutes. The history of the organisation can broadly be considered in three periods, beginning with the years 1965 to 1977. This was the founding period, when the organisation took on the role of coordinating traditional social services in Galway, working in partnership with local voluntary groups and religious orders. Galway Social Services, as the organisation was first known, emerged from a campaign led by Sister Mary Campion, a sister of charity nun and social worker. One of the earliest milestones was the opening of Galway Social Service Centre on Francis Street in 1966, a premises donated for use by the Sisters of Mercy. From there, local volunteers working alongside charitable religious groups and local voluntary organisations delivered practical services including home visits, hot meals, and laundry support to people in need. Under the patronage of Bishop Michael J. Brown, Galway Social Service Council brought together diverse groups, including the St. Vincent de Paul, who are represented here today, local trade unions, the Legion of Mary, and Little Sisters of the Assumption, creating a network of services that benefited hundreds of people through the late 1960s and early 1970s. By the 1970s, however, Galway's social challenges were becoming more complex. Issues such as homelessness, family breakdown, and social exclusion were emerging more strongly as Galway became a more modern and growing city. It became clear that the organisation's existing structures, primarily as a coordinating body, was limiting in its ability to respond effectively. A review, along with recommendations from the Western Health Board, suggested that the organisation needed to reinvent itself to meet these challenges. Expanded services were called for, including enhanced Meals on Wheels programme and improved supports for socially isolated people and victims of domestic abuse. The conclusion was that the organisation needed to evolve from a coordinating body into a more dynamic and responsive service provider, capable of directly addressing emerging social challenges. I want to just highlight a few notable points and things that occurred during this period. In 1968, Mary Canavan of Tuam became the first paid social worker in the organisation. In 1975, a survey conducted of older people in Galway found many were struggling. Half had only 3 or 4 hot meals a week and lived on less than £10 a week, while the third identified proper housing as their most urgent needs. In 1976, a report highlighted key challenges. Family problems related to an alcoholic spouse necessitating accommodation for battered wives, homelessness among men, and a need for expanded Meals on Wheels and home help services. The second period, from 1978 to 1993, was one of major transformation. During this time, the organisation restructured itself to become both a coordinating body for over 40 voluntary organisations and as a direct provider of new services. The organisation expanded its operation to include housing assistance, hostels for battered wives, shelters for the homeless, and comprehensive support to the poor and elderly. These services filled critical gaps at a time when many vulnerable people had few, if any, supports available. Key supporters in enabling this work included the Western Health Board and Galway Corporation. However, by the early 1990s, the organisation was again facing serious challenges. Financial pressures were increasing, there were staffing challenges, and the organisation's structure was struggling to keep pace with evolving need of the community. This led to an existential crisis with a critical review in 1993 by Dr. Kieran McKeown, which examined the organisation's management, delivery and quality of services. The review raised fundamental questions about the organisation's dual role and long-term viability. Should it narrow its focus to elderly care or reinvent itself as an independent, all-encompassing advocate and service provider for Galway? What emerged was a plan to transfer several services, including hostels, resource centres, to other agencies with a view to pivoting the organisation towards a leaner focus on services for older people. Some notable developments in this period included the opening of Waterside House in June 1981. Wood Key Districts and Residents Association supported the planning application, and as part of the discussion with local residents, it was agreed that the area in the immediate vicinity of the hostel will be patrolled at night by male volunteers in liaison with Gardaí, and this was for an initial 6-month period. In 1982, the Son of Stays Centre for Older People opened in Walter Mackin Place in Merview. The following year saw the establishment of Fairgreen Hostel for Homeless Men in a small prefabricated building in the corner of the then Fairgreen car park off of Eyre Square. This was designed to accommodate 16 men and was deemed a temporary shelter until a suitable site for a permanent structure was acquired. This was initially operated jointly with the Simon community. In 1984, experienced social worker Paula Naughton joined the organisation as administrator, leveraging her background with Sister Stanilas Kennedy and Bishop Birch and Kilkenny, pioneers in the social service movement. And I'm pleased to say that Paula is here with us today. In 1986, Westside House Hostel for Homeless Women and Unmarried Mothers opened, initially operating on a night shelter basis for women with children who were forced from home as a result of domestic violence or the threat of it, while these women were able to access Waterside House during the daytime. And finally, in 1990, Christmas Day Swim took place for the first time in support of Waterside House, a tradition that continues to this day. And this brings me to the most recent period from 1994 to the present day. During the early part of this period, the organisation navigated critical decisions about its role, evolving from a primarily volunteer-based coordinating entity under the patronage of the Galway Diocese and less responsive to emerging needs into an independent, professional body dedicated to addressing homelessness, domestic abuse, and the support of healthy independent ageing through the direct provision of effective services. In the early years following the McKeown report, the organisation stood at a crossroads in deciding whether it would downsize to a non-profit entity primarily focused on delivering services for elderly through volunteers, or become a direct provider of services to meet gaps in addressing social needs in Galway. In the end, fate decreed that the decision was made for them. None of the proposed transfers of services actually occurred, since none of the agencies identified to take over these services were in a position to do so. Galway Social Service Council chose to again reinvent itself, this time as a fundamentally restructured organisation under the necessary organisational alignment and operational changes as identified and envisaged through the McKeown report. This saw a legal restructuring in 1996 to become Galway Voluntary Social Services Limited, followed by a comprehensive rebranding in 2000 as COPE Crisis Housing Caring Support Limited. I suppose fittingly, the guest of honour on the occasion of COPE Crisis Housing Caring Support and that change was Mick Lally, and we're in the Mick Lally Theatre today for this event. And I suppose what then followed was the organisation became commonly known as COPE, but a further iteration since 2008 saw the name changed to COPE Galway. During this period in 1997, Jackie Horn was appointed director, bringing both social science and business expertise to the organisation. Jackie served in the role for 24 years until 2021, when our current CEO, Michael Symth, was recruited. Jackie's commitment and experience were not lost to us as she moved to the head of Senior Support Services for a further 4 years until last year. And again, Jackie is with us here today. Throughout this time, the organisation steadily expanded in terms of its services and impact. Westside House, in addition to accommodating families and children in 1996, also started to accommodate unaccompanied minors and extended to being a 24-hour, 7-day service. In 2005, however, it ceased to operate as a hostel. Family Support Services, first established as an outreach service to Westside House in 1999, with a focus on prevention and tenancy support. By 2005, this became the mainstay of the response to family homelessness in Galway. It continues as that today, along with Corribhaven Family Hub, which opened in 2019 in response to the crisis of family homelessness that we are now living through. The response to single-person homelessness also necessitated new thinking and approaches. In addition to Fairgreen Hostel, which opened as a new 26-bed hostel in 1997, and Osterley Lodge, a 12-bed hostel for single homeless women, which opened in 2002, the past 10 years have seen growth in community-based housing in the form of shared housing units for single people and couples as part of response to this growing need. The Day Centre for Homeless, including a street outreach and regional outreach service, and the seasonal cold weather response, a seasonal winter initiative operating since 2006, are now also key parts of this response, focused on addressing the increased prevalence of people sleeping rough. COPE Galway's domestic abuse services also grew significantly since 1994. A dedicated childcare unit opened in Waterside House Refuge in 1995, and this has since developed into the Solace Oak service, supporting children and young people affected by domestic abuse. In 1999, the Domestic Abuse Outreach Service was established, and today supports hundreds of women each year with regular outreach clinics, including in the county towns around Galway. One of the most significant developments came in 2020 with the opening of Moella House, the new home of COPE Galway's domestic abuse services. With funding support from Galway City Council and the Department of Housing, and an intensive fundraising campaign headed by the COPE Galway board, Moella House opened its doors in May 2020 on the site of the former Mercy Order Convent on Foster Street. This has allowed COPE Galway to further develop and expand the offering available to women experiencing domestic abuse and their children. Senior support services have similarly grown and expanded over the past 3 decades. Meals on Wheels moved from Francis Street to Ballyban in 2005, evolving into what is now Meals for Health, a social enterprise with a widened scope and capacity. In parallel with this, community supports for older people have continued to grow, building on the Solace Day Centre, which opened in 1982 and continues to operate up to today and beyond. Today, our senior support team provide a range of one-to-one supports and services for older people in the community, with bases in a number of Galway City Council housing schemes for elderly in the city. The development and continuing expansion of lunch clubs and the opening of the bungalow in Merview in cooperation with Merview Parish in 2021 as a community hub for older people further reflects how embedded we are in the community of Galway. To support this growth, the organisation's governance and support functions have also developed to allow us to continue quality services. At the same time, our development and fundraising capacity has grown, allowing us to innovate and respond to new and increasing needs. Threaded through the entire history of the organisation is volunteering. In the earliest years, between 1965 and 1977, the organisation relied almost entirely on volunteers in local organisations to carry out its missions. The records don't tell us how many volunteers were involved at any one time during those early years, but what is clear is that a diversity of people of all ages and backgrounds were giving their time and skills to help others. And while roles may have changed, it is perhaps not that different to the motivation and contribution of the 250 volunteers we have today. Alongside this, the organisation has developed a highly skilled and committed professional staff. Something that began as early as 1968 with the appointment of Mary Canavan as the first paid social worker. For 60 years, volunteers and staff together have worked to support the people of Galway and continue to do so today. In conclusion, I want to introduce a short video. It is difficult to capture 60 years of history in a short presentation. The next few slides attempt to give some more context and information about the development of COPE Galway through the decades. So the work of COPE Galway is not just about celebrating the past, it's about the present, some of which I've briefly touched on, and our hopes for the future. To explore this, we're going to hear from the heads of our three services who lead the teams who support the people every day across our homelessness, domestic abuse and senior support services. Their insights will give us a real sense of the challenges, the resilience and the impacts happening on the ground every day. This discussion will be facilitated by Sharon, so can you please join me in welcoming Gillian, Louise, Sinead and Sharon.
I'm glad to see we made the highlights.
So I'd like to start by building on Martin's points about challenges of the past, some of which are still present today. Could you talk about some of the new challenges that your service is facing and how we might work together to address them? And Gillian, I might start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. I was reflecting back on the video to see how far the domestic abuse service has come. I'm only with the service 3 years, and there's many people here in the audience that are a lot longer. I won't point them out because I'll get in trouble. But to see how far the service has come to respond to the changing needs of women, and that it's not just in response to what was there as alcoholic spouses and their behaviour, that we now have a service that we try to meet women where they're at and where children are at. With that, some of the new challenges that we're facing is definitely with the homeless crisis, where we have women and children remaining in refuge and they don't have somewhere to move on to. So last year, unfortunately, we had to support 120 women to go somewhere else to get support because we were full and we couldn't support them. And while it's 120 women, it was 162 times we had to say, no, I'm sorry, but we'll find it, because it was the same person that was ringing back. I see there the figure, I think, was 300 and something over the 4 years that Waterside had supported. And I know Amy's service and outreach supported 306 women out in outreach last year. So when people think about refuge, you know, there's a lot more that goes to it. We also then, technology is really coming up as one of the challenges at the moment. I think I don't know if anybody's like me, a bit terrified of AI and DeepSeek and everything else and what that can bring. And that is now being used to monitor women 24/7 to make sure where they are, how far they've gone, who they see, what money they're spending. And there's no escaping it. It's there on social media. So we try to make sure that we can put whatever supports in place and information for the clients so that they can stay one step ahead. So we worked with Strife last year, who are a software company, and they kindly put together a manual so that people can inform themselves about how to check for tracking on your phone, how to clear your search history, things some people take for granted. And a lot of us just aren't tech savvy and we're not aware of. With that then comes all the big tech platforms that we have. And I think as a community and as a society, we need to hold them accountable. We need to stand up and say no. I think we need to look at places like Australia and putting in the bans for our young people, because they are really the next people coming up and are so badly affected when it comes to social media. Thankfully, through philanthropy, we have our team that goes out, the education team, go out into schools. And the feedback from there is amazing. Like, the young people are so resilient and so eager to find out how to be a good person and how to be respectful and how to treat somebody they love in the way that they should be and around boundaries. So a lot of that comes up around snap mapping. I don't know if people are familiar. So when you have Snapchat app, it will give you directions to actually find out where somebody you're following, exactly where they are, and it'll connect to Google Maps. So it'll tell you how long it'll take you to get there, whether you're going to go by train, walk. You can literally see to that person's front door. And young people are sharing that with each other and see no problem, but then think that Elon Musk is harnessing all their data. So it's really about creating that creative thinking or critical thinking for young people. But like that, we keep working with all our community agencies and with each other to make sure that we stay kind of ahead of the curve and say that we can equip people with the information and the supports that they need for the challenges of today.
Well, Gillian spoke about families and women and children in particular being stuck in refuge because there's no accommodation for them to move on to. I think myself that child homelessness is very much the biggest problem our community is facing at the moment. It is a 21st century phenomenon. 20 years ago, if we were to hear of any family or child experiencing homelessness, we would be so very shocked. And I think it's really important that we hold on to that shock and that we move that shock into action. The figures in the West are at a record high. Over the last 5 years, child homelessness has gone up by almost 80%. And the trajectory is that it's going to continue to move in that direction. And sometimes when we see figures on a sheet, we forget that, as Pádraig pointed out in his speech, that each figure represents a person, and a young person full of opportunity being reared in a bed and breakfast bedroom with their siblings, their mother, and all of their belongings is just not okay. The only way that we can solve this is if every agency involved takes full responsibility to work together to try to move through this problem and together come up with solutions to try and solve it. And we very much need community support for that too. Within COPE Galway, we have over 230 children at the moment in emergency accommodation, and we have only one worker working with those children, which to me is, again, not good enough. Though that worker does absolutely amazing work, he is funded through philanthropy, and we're not in receipt of one penny of statutory funding to work with children and services beyond providing them with emergency accommodation. So that's of great concern to me.
And I suppose in terms of senior support, I was privileged to take over the role from Jackie in April last year. It seems to have gone in a flash since then. And the challenges, I suppose, going forward really are the numbers of older people living longer, which is in itself a very positive thing. We don't like to think in the room. But it's the funding to deliver services to an increased number of people. And the national statistics would tell us by 2051 there's going to be over 1.5 million people in that older age bracket, with over 500,000 in the 80 plus age bracket. And if we look at Galway City and County, currently 26% of people are in the age 55 plus bracket. So I suppose the time to act for the public services is now in terms of the funding. And as Gillian has said, Sinead, similarly in senior support, our funding is a mix. We do receive some funding from Galway City Council and are very grateful for that, and from the HSE. But I suppose for our small team that we currently have and our ability to scale that up, we are reliant on philanthropic funding and on fundraised income to be able to do that. I suppose we provide two separate services in terms of community services based in the community. And you saw some of the photos there of the bungalow and the Son Stay Centre. And we have a small team of people very dedicated to working with individuals on a one-to-one basis, but also providing community activities, things for people to improve their health and their fitness, and that really vital one-to-one support for people. We also provide a befriending program, which is really for people who are in the house and can't be out, a really vital support for people to keep them mentally well and connected when they're not physically able to leave the home. And then I suppose our Meals for Health service, providing those healthy, nutritious meals every week to people in Galway City and County, delivered by volunteers. And then in terms of wide across the county of Ireland, we deliver through DPD. So I suppose that keeping people well and healthy is both the physical, the mental, and also the nutritional needs. And I suppose the second challenge would be ageism in terms of our positive aging campaign. And again, that was Jackie who started that in 2020. And I suppose I was privileged to lead it last year. And the positive aging is led by COPE Galway, but in partnership with other organisations, so Galway City and County Councils, the HSE, and a number of other voluntary organisations all come together for Positive Aging Week. We nominate people from across city and county. Those people are a beacon of positivity for what you can achieve in older age. And that is a campaign that hopefully has far-reaching anti-ageism and promoting the positive aging that's possible with the supports that we can provide in senior support.
Thank you all for those powerful insights. I think what we're hearing is that while the challenges may differ, the scale and complexity of need across our communities is very real. And a clear thread across what all of you have said is that none of these challenges can be solved by any one organisation, that they require partnership and collective action. And that brings us to our next question, which looks to the future. COPE Galway's new vision is a community where every person is safe, connected, and has the opportunity to thrive. So how do we build a community rooted in safety, dignity, and opportunity for all? Sinead, I might start with you.
Sharon, when you speak of safety, my thoughts immediately turn to people who are rough sleeping in Galway, our most vulnerable clients in the most vulnerable of positions. For them, safety can often seem like a very distant thing, and yet they still do find support and connection from one another. There's great power in the community, and the rough sleepers look out for one another, are connected to one another, and our rough sleeper teams at the day centre and our outreach and cold weather response teams, they too are connected to clients rough sleeping and know where the clients are sleeping, arrange to meet with them regularly, try to work them into services if that is at all possible. If it's not possible for them to access residential services, our day centre team provides showers and food and a supportive place to be, and all of those things are essential to people's dignity. Then I also find myself thinking about long-standing services, like two of the services that Martin mentioned, Fairgreen Hostel and Osterley Lodge. In those services, people have an opportunity to settle and to be supported and to move towards recovery and to think about their future in a safe space. And then I also think about community-based services, and we have members of our community-based teams here as well today. Martin made reference to community-based housing, and we have over 80 people currently in shared accommodation around the city. For some, it's the only solution to the fact that there are very few one-bed houses, and they would love to have a place of their own. But in the absence of that, they are provided with homes in the community that they share with others, and they have opportunities to return to employment. The teams work really hard to reintegrate people into the community. And that's, I think, where people really start to thrive rather than just survive.
Thanks, Sinead.
And
Louise.
I suppose in senior support, our community-based services are rooted in that dignity and connection for older people and safety. I suppose there's a mixture of either one-to-one support for people who need somebody to advocate for them on their behalf around accommodation or healthcare or community benefits or other things that they need, and then community-based services where people come out and come to a collective class or an activity or an event that helps them connect better with their community. I suppose in terms of the befriending, I'd already mentioned, that's really a critical service. It's run by one part-time member of staff who looks after 20 volunteers. And last year, that in-person befriending service provided just over 2,000 visits to older people. Really critical visits where those older people are waiting on that visitor coming. It might be the only person they see in terms of that week. I suppose the Meals for Health service too, initially, obviously it does what it says on the tin. It is around the delivery of fresh, nutritious, affordable meals to older people. But I suppose even that service is developing and expanding and looking at the needs of older people this year. We're really grateful to have secured philanthropic funding to do a project called Nourish and Connect, which is building on our Befriending in Person project, but it's going to do a phone befriending service for people who ring in to do the orders. And I suppose that grew out of a real need that the guys in Meals for Health could see. The phone calls that people made every week to order their food became longer, more frequent. People were ringing back. And this project has come into being just to meet those needs, to keep people safe and nourished in their own home. I suppose, it's that safety, that dignity. That's the key thing, to keep people connected, to keep people active, and keep people being part of the community and offering the supports that we can offer to do that. The challenge, I suppose, is funding those supports going forward and growing to meet the needs of the growing population.
Yeah, listening to both Louise and Sinead speak about people feeling safe and in their own homes and feeling connected. I do really think about the women that come to the refuge. I think we're at a time where we now need to flip the narrative and where we need to look at keeping women and their children safe in their own homes, and that they don't have to lose connection to their own local supports, that they don't have to leave school, leave work and pack up everything and go to a refuge, because that's kind of the history of what we've done with women in Ireland is we'll put them over there and that'll be fine. We really need to start addressing the perpetrator who's breaking the law, and that it's not that the woman has to pay the price for going, to give up that connection and that sense of belonging of your own, like you have done something wrong and you need to hide away, is definitely not the way in 2026 that we should be looking, and why not lead the way in that? And part of that, I know Pádraig talked about research that we're doing. So we got funding from the housing agency. So we're going to look at how the current housing policy results in women and children remaining within a domestic abuse environment or returning. And that's going to be across all of Connacht. And we actually expect to see, or hope to see, a lot of women that have never reached out to services because they feel that actually I've nowhere to go to. So why would I? Why would I take that on and I still have to live there? So I think there will be really good information that can come out of that, and really rich information that can be mirrored equally across the nation, because everything seems to be quite Dublin centric. So showing like everything that goes on in the west of Ireland, and we cover Galway City and County and the islands. So trying to, particularly COPE Galway and Galway is all about community and how we support each other. And I think, it's time as a community that we stood up and we started saying this is not okay, that women and children need to stay safe at home and be at home, and that we hold the perpetrators accountable.
What's striking in your responses is the emphasis on prevention and connection. You've all given examples of how proactive, sometimes relatively small interventions can have a really profound impact on people's dignity and sense of well-being. However, as you've all highlighted, many of the projects that we've been talking about are funded through philanthropy rather than by the state. And I suppose if we're serious about prevention, then we need to look at providing these initiatives as part of core service delivery. And so we need to receive sustainable state funding. And of course, investing in prevention is more than just saving funds. It's about compassion and it's about strengthening our communities into the future. And thinking about the future leads me to my final question. One of COPE Galway's core values is hope, and it's hope that guides our work every day. So I'd like to ask each of you, when you think about the future, what inspires hope for you in the work that you do? And Louise, we might start with you this time.
I suppose hope to me in senior support is all about the people. When I say that, I mean the people I work with, both above and below me, the people in the organisation, in the board, the volunteers who are critical in terms of the services we deliver in senior support. I just asked the volunteer office to do me a few statistics for today, and 44% of our volunteers are aged 55 plus. So many of them are older people themselves. All of our volunteers who deliver the meals in Meals for Health, who also do an at the door befriending when they deliver the meal, and anybody who's been out on a round with any of the guys doing the volunteer deliveries, they provide a fabulous service. So also the clients themselves, when they come in every day, the people you would meet at the door delivering, the people who come into the day centre in Sunnis, they provide peer support to each other. They're like a large extended family for each other. And they've gone through challenges in their lives, and many of them are still contributing to the community while availing of services. So I suppose to me, as somebody who's fairly new in the organisation, the strength is in the strength of the people, both the clients and the staff, to keep delivering, keep getting up, and as older people to keep moving on and living life to the full. And I suppose our positive ageing campaign really shows that. Some of the people in the campaign last year, we had a guy in his 90s, a lifelong exponent of the Irish language, a farmer. He insisted on his photograph being taken on his tractor because that was key to his livelihood. He's still able to get out and get up and drive the tractor every day. We had a lady who's still driving her taxi in a rural part of Connemara, and she's in her 80s. We had another lady who'd written a book in her 80s. So there is no barrier. Age is no barrier to people being positive, having that hope and keeping that hope central to their lives. Gillian?
Yeah, when I think of hope, I think of last Friday, we had our International Women's Day event in our service. And we had 2 past clients come in and talk about where they are now in their journey. Because they didn't need to talk about what has already happened, because unfortunately those in the room were very aware of what it's like being on the journey of domestic abuse. So there was about 25 to 30 past and current clients, and a good few of the team managed to make it. We're in high demand when it comes to International Women's Day, so that's always a good one. But to see and to hear the laughter, the chat, the support, like some women had never met each other before, and the bonds that were made and the strength in the room was just absolutely phenomenal. One of our past clients, Betsy Cornwell, has written a book, Ring of Salt, available on our website. And she got to read that out. She got to read out a passage. And I know she put up a post on Instagram afterwards about how powerful it was for her to be able to give back to the support group and the survivor group that she was with before, and to show her creativity and her immense talent. Another lady then came to do bioenergy, who was a past client as well. She's probably about 5 foot and about 7 stone, and came on a motorbike. And it was just amazing, like the epitome of strength. And because sometimes people have this vision, I think, of people that are subjected to domestic abuse as being weak. And I can tell you one thing, the women and children that come anywhere near us are the most fierce, phenomenal, courageous people that I've ever met. So that absolutely fills me with hope for the future, and hopefully we won't need my service in a few more years.
I suppose my answer will very much echo Louise and Gillian's answer. What brings me hope is people. There are days in the middle of a housing crisis where hope seems a little bit distant. And on those occasions, I take strength from the incredible staff around me. There are staff in the audience that have had a really, really hard few weeks. I can see them. And they come in day after day and they give their whole selves, their whole hearts to their clients, to their work, and to COPE Galway. And that really inspires me. The clients themselves are absolutely phenomenal, from the children the whole way to older people. We see such a range of people in homeless services. And the one thing that really binds them all actually is quite similar to what Gillian was saying, just their survival skills, their strength, their resilience, their wit, their humour, every other skill that they hold as people. So they bring me great hope, and there's great power in the peer community. And I'm very proud to say that in the next week, we are advertising for a peer worker to work within our homeless services on peer programs and on client voice pieces of work. So I'm excited about that. And lastly, collaborative pieces of work that work bring me hope. Over the last year, or a little bit over a year, we've been involved in a new project in Galway called Housing Led for Families. And we've been piloting this approach to working with families for the country. Galway has been the pilot site. And there are a number of agencies involved: Galway City Council, Galway County Council, TUSLA, the HSE, and COPE Galway, all involved. So the local authorities provide houses for families in Galway City and Galway County. And then our team provides support. And the families who are housed in this project are families who would previously have been deemed to have medium to high needs and be very difficult to house. Every single family who was given a home and who has the support of our housing-led team has maintained their house. But beyond that, they are up to date on their rent, on all of their bills. They keep their homes well. They engage fully with their key worker, and every one of their children is in full-time education. So that is amazing success and brings me great hope for the future. There is a solution to homelessness, and it is housing and sport.
Most powerful message from the panel is where hope truly comes from, because you've all said the same thing. It's people, it's our staff, it's our clients, it's our volunteers and the communities working together. And this reminds us that COPE Galway's vision isn't just an aspiration, but it's something that we see taking shape every single day. So thank you, Gillian. Thank you, Sinead. Thank you, Louise. To bring that vision to life, we'd like to share a short video showcasing the breadth and impact of COPE Galway services and the incredible support of the Galway community that makes it possible. And then after the video, Michael Symth, our CEO, will share COPE Galway's plans for the future.
For 60 years, COPE Galway has been providing essential social services to people in Galway. Each year, we support more than 3,000 people during some of the most challenging times in their lives. Every person we meet brings their own story, hopes and dreams, and every person receives support tailored to their unique needs. We respond when people are facing homelessness. We provide safety, support and empowerment to women and children subjected to domestic abuse. We support older people to live independently in their homes, staying connected and valued in their community. Today, COPE Galway delivers a wide range of essential services across our homeless, domestic abuse and senior support services. Our work spans Galway City, County and beyond through frontline services, specialist supports, community programmes and social enterprise. COPE Galway Homeless Services provide a wide range of emergency, family and community-based supports for people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. Fairgreen Hostel and Osterley Lodge provide supported temporary accommodation for single men and women, offering a safe place to stay and the support needed to move forward. Our day centre provides essential food, shower and laundry facilities, alongside access to health and welfare services, in-house medical clinics and housing information. Our rough sleeper outreach teams work across Galway, Mayo and Roscommon, reaching out to people where they are and helping them access the supports they need. During cold and severe weather, additional responses help reduce the risk of serious harm during the winter months. For families, our services include emergency accommodation placements, homeless prevention supports, tenancy assistance, and a family hub providing accommodation for 10 single-parent families. Our Helping Kids First project supports the physical, emotional, social and educational needs of children experiencing homelessness. Our community-based responses use a housing-led approach, providing housing and dedicated move-on support so people who have exited homelessness can sustain tenancies and ultimately break the cycle of homelessness. COPE Galway is working towards a world with zero tolerance of domestic abuse. From Moella House, we provide safe refuge accommodation, a 24/7 confidential helpline, and a range of individual and group supports for women and children subjected to domestic abuse. 90% of the women we support are helped through our outreach service, where we meet women in safe locations across Galway City and County. Solas Óg is our specialised service for children and young people experiencing domestic abuse. As well as one-to-one and group therapeutic support, Solas Óg delivers programmes in schools and youth groups, helping young people to understand the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships. To strengthen community response, we provide domestic abuse awareness training to agencies and partners, helping them recognise, respond to, and refer cases of domestic abuse. At every step, we listen, we believe, and we support women, children, and young people on their journey toward a life free from abuse. COPE Galway Senior Support Services provide a range of services designed to foster healthy, independent ageing, strengthen social connections, and reduce isolation. We support older people at home and in the community through a range of social and nutritional services. Our 3 community social centres are welcoming, friendly spaces where older residents can drop in and connect with others, take part in activities, and access support services. From coffee mornings and lunch clubs to gentle exercise classes, walks, and social gatherings, we aim to offer something for older people of all abilities. Our befriending service pairs older people living alone with trained volunteers who offer weekly conversation, companionship, and support with everyday errands. Meals for Health, our social enterprise, prepares and delivers more than 100,000 fresh, affordable, nutritious meals every year. Each delivery provides not just a meal, but a friendly check-in and important social connection. Through our EU-funded food distribution programme, we also support more than 2,000 people each year, helping reduce food poverty while supporting well-being and dignity. By rescuing good quality surplus food from local businesses, we reduce food waste while redistributing it to people who use our services. Together, these services help people stay connected, supported, and valued within their communities. COPE Galway's journey started 60 years ago when a group of local volunteers saw a need in the community and chose to act. Today, the scale and complexity of our work is made possible thanks to that same spirit of generosity, support, and dedication from so many in our community. The commitment and skill of our team of 200 staff, 9 community employment participants, and over 250 volunteers offer hope, support, and a brighter future to the people we work with every day. The contribution of our wider circle of supporters, funders, and community partners reflects the true spirit of Galway, a community that steps forward to care for its own. Our work is not just about preventing and responding to today's challenges. It's about building stronger communities for the future, the kind of community we all want to live in. As we mark 60 years, we want to say thank you to everyone who has stood with us over the years. Your compassion has enabled COPE Galway to transform lives and to look towards a future where every person is safe, connected, and has the opportunity to thrive.
Good afternoon, everybody. What a privilege it is for me to stand in front of you today. Such a phenomenal organisation. Can I take a moment to just acknowledge the leadership in the room, from Paula Naughton, Jackie Linsky, Martin O'Connor. Over the last 40 years, what's been achieved with this organisation is nothing short of phenomenal, and I think it deserves a round of applause. We've just heard 2 powerful perspectives on the work of COPE Galway. First and foremost, from Martin, the remarkable story of this organisation's coming to being, how it evolved over 6 decades to match the changing needs of our society. And then from our panel discussion, the very real and immediate needs of the communities that we're working with. and how our teams are working tirelessly every single day to respond to them needs. Together, those two perspectives say something really important about this organisation. COPE Galway did not just grow over the last 60 years, it was built. It was built by the people in this community who stepped forward when it was needed most. It was built by the volunteers who refused to look away. It was built by the staff members who come to work every single day and lead with professionalism and compassion. Built by donors and funders in this room and across Galway who believe in common good. And built by partners across Ireland who understand that the well-being of a community is measured on how it responds to those that are facing their most difficult days. Organisations like COPE Galway show the power of community action. People step forward every day to ensure dignity, safety, and care are not abstract ideals. They are the realities of the people's lives that we support. The story of COPE Galway is not only about the past, it is still unfolding. And it's why anniversaries and moments like this are so important to give us an opportunity to reflect on what we've achieved in the past, but also to ask our community what they might need from us in the future. Before I speak about that, I want to add my own welcome to our very special guests, Michael D. Higgins and Sabina Coyne Higgins. Your presence matters to us. We really appreciate you being here today. During your public lives, you reminded Ireland why dignity is not abstract and why it is practical. It's made through rights, through care, through solidarity and the daily work in any society that does not leave people behind. Sabina, thank you for your long-standing support of COPE Galway and your patronage. Your encouragement has been a source of strength for us this past many chapters. We're also truly honoured to be joined by Dr. Michael Ryan, former Deputy Director General of the World Health Organization. Dr. Ryan brings a rare combination of global experience and practical wisdom, reminding us that the biggest challenges in the world today are not met by words alone, but by steady leadership, evidence, and compassion in action. So, having reflected on our history just now, I want to speak a little bit more about the future and the next chapter of COPE Galway. We know that the context we work in is complex. We know that the challenges faced by our clients are unforgiving. We see that in our own communities every single day. The housing crisis continues to drive homelessness. The heinous crime that is domestic abuse is still profound and often hidden. And as our population ages, isolation, loneliness, and unequal access to supports can quietly erode well-being and health. But the story of COPE Galway, as we've heard today, is one of constant evolution. As a society changes, so too must we. That is why we've set out a clear direction for the next 3 years. Our new vision is simple but ambitious. A community where every person is safe, connected, and has the opportunity to thrive. Our mission is equally direct. We are tireless in leading social change through our evidence-based and innovative work with the people in our communities. Our values of rights, respect, hope, collaboration, connection, and trust are not decorative words. They're commitments. They shape how we work. They shape how we listen. They shape how we hold ourselves accountable. But vision and values are words that must turn into action. We have developed our new strategic plan, 26 to 28. It's a 3-year strategic plan that is deliberately positioned within a 10-year horizon. The longer horizon matters. It tells us something really important about COPE Galway, and we're not interested in short-term fixes or gestures. We're focused on building lasting change that still meets the urgent needs of today. So our focus over the next 3 years are going to be in 3 areas. First, excellence and impact. By 2028, COPE Galway will be an impact-oriented organisation with work that is evidence-based and underpinned by trauma-informed practice. That means to continue strengthening the quality and consistency of our services, enhancing what we already do, and developing new responses to meet the needs as they arrive. It means supporting our people, because we cannot deliver excellence unless our staff are supported to work with the high levels of complexity they face every single day. And it means embedding both trauma-informed practice and equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging in every element of the organisation. Second, learning and evidence. We will become a learning organisation capable of demonstrating its social and economic value of our work. Not for the sake of reporting, but for the sake of improvement, continuous improvement, accountability, and stronger outcomes. Over the next 3 years, we will implement an ethical system of data gathering, impact measurement, and capturing learning so that we can understand more clearly what works, for whom, and why. And finally, third one, prevention and innovation. We will strengthen our capability to influence policy and prevention at a national level. We will identify themes from our service delivery, client voice, and from the data we gather, and use them to inform high-impact research and advocacy. In other words, we will continue to meet people in crisis, but we will also work more deliberately to change the conditions that drive these crises in the first place. Across all three outcomes, there is one common thread. This common thread matters most, more than any organisational structure or system, and that is client voice. It is the epitome of everything we do in COPE Galway, the heart of all of our work. We consulted hundreds of clients, staff, volunteers in developing this strategy, and the message was clear. People want to be listened to, but not just as service users. They want to be partners in shaping what good support means. So we're committed to developing a comprehensive organisation-wide system for client voice, from service design, service delivery, to service evaluation. Clients would be involved every step of the way. And like everything in our history, it will require partnership. COPE Galway is rooted in Galway. It belongs to Galway. The next chapter will be written as the last 60 years have been written, through collective effort, shared responsibility, shared courage, and shared hope. And let me close with this. When we speak about societal change, we've heard quite a bit about it today. What are we speaking of? We're speaking of a child who can sleep in their own bed, in their own home. We're speaking of a woman who lives free from fear. We're speaking of an individual who can exit homelessness with the right supports to sustain a home. And we're speaking of an older person who's no longer isolated, who's nourished, connected, and seen. That is the work. That is the promise. That is the future of COPE Galway. Thank you for walking with COPE Galway over these past 60 years and into the next chapter. Thank you in advance of your continued partnership and belief in this organisation for us to realise these plans over the next 3 years. And now, it is my great honour to welcome Dr. Michael Ryan, whose global leadership and insights remind us that challenges we face locally are part of a wider human question, and that courage, compassion, and evidence-based actions are the best answers we have. Dr. Ryan.
But it's a great honour for me to be with you today. The staff that are here, the volunteers, to the guests, the funders, media colleagues, President Higgins and Sabina, First Lady, welcome as well. It's a great honour actually for me to stand here in the Druid, Mick Lally's Druid Theatre. I remember being up there in 1982 helping Spud Murphy put up some lights. So it's kind of it's a return to form. In that sense, the journey of this organisation over 60 years in Galway, you think of things like the Druid, you think of COPE, or you think of the things that are pure Galway, and it's part of that vernacular of Galway. 60 years ago, the organization began with a simple but powerful idea, people within the community, that no one should face hardship and vulnerability alone. And from those early beginnings, what started as small acts of care has grown into a pillar, and you heard it, a pillar of trusted support and services for countless people in this community. But it's not simply a charity. As the commemorative booklet said, and Michael said as well, it's really become a professional social care organization focused on inclusive dialogue, on evidence-informed practice, on innovation, on excellence and positive change. And I say that word excellence because sometimes in the public service, the community service, sometimes those out there in other services see us as the bleeding hearts. We kind of, whatever best effort is good enough, we'll just help it out. It's a charity. It's not acceptable. Public service and community service has to be based on excellence. We have to deliver more with less all the time. Doesn't matter whether you're in Galway, doesn't matter if you're in Ireland, doesn't matter if you're in Europe or in the world. And I think what Michael has laid out as the future is really where public service needs to go in the future. And as he said, COPE Galway's vision is steadfast now, a community where every person is valued and supported at every stage of life. Over the decades, as you've heard, this organization has stood beside people in some of the most difficult moments of their lives. We've all been there in our own individual lives. And it's that solidarity of the moment when you feel most vulnerable, most alone, most exposed. It's the person that stands with you, is the person you will stand with afterwards. And involving clients in that process is so important. It has evolved as the communities themselves have changed. We're not been a perfect society. We're a society who hid away abused women. They had to hide from not only the perpetrators, but from the very community that judged them, not as a victim. We had to endure a society where being old was being used up. You were a problem. And we were a society we saw homelessness in the same vein as laziness or the inability to cope. Homelessness was a result of your lack of effort or your lack of worth. So we're not a perfect society, but we have evolved as a society. And we have evolved, and COPE has evolved, offering refuge and respect to those experiencing homelessness, safety and dignity to those experiencing domestic abuse, healthy nutrition, care and connection for older members of our community. These aren't just services delivered to a contract. They're lifelines provided to people when they are most vulnerable. They show often desperate people a human face, a human embrace, enhancing their inherent dignity and offering them a path to a safer and more hopeful future. Behind every statistic is a person. So many people said that. You said it. A person who found warmth on a cold night, a person who discovered safety after fear, an older neighbor who realized they weren't forgotten. And behind every one of those moments is this organization, the community that supports it and the agencies who fund it, all the remarkable people who've made this journey possible over the years. When I lecture students embarking on their masters in public health, I often use one slide at the beginning. And the slide has just 3 symbols on it. It says N equals 1. Because these people are about to embark on counting individuals and counting study groups and observations. We epidemiologists like to count things. And we're great at summarizing the human condition in tables and graphs and maps, representing hundreds, thousands, millions, even billions of people. And I tell my students that they'll be bombarded by such population summaries, by cold statistics, all very useful and important when you're looking at a problem. But I tell them not to forget that the most important number is 1. N equals 1. Because all the ones matter. You engage with one person and help one person. Then you help another person, then another. And before you know it, you're helping and transforming the lives of so many. And the COPE hasn't forgotten that the ones matter. So to COPE, its staff of volunteers, your professionalism, your empathy, your resilience inspire us all. And I've only been involved with COPE a few years during COVID. At Colette manhandled, wrangled me into supporting COPE, and I've tried to be as supportive as I can since. To the volunteers, and I know all the staff have mentioned this, to the volunteers of COPE, your generosity of time and spirit and skill involves the very best of community. I think, Michael, you outlined in the forward to the commemorative booklet the spirit of Mehel, the spirit that the community comes together to help others. It's a very important concept, I think, in Irish culture and society. And if COPE is a constant, ongoing, 24-hour, 365 Mehel, and the volunteers make that happen. To the supporters and partners of COPE, you've believed in its mission for so long and you've helped it grow stronger year after year. I think the greatest testament to this organization's impact, and it's been mentioned before, is the concept of dignity. Dignity is a very important concept in public service. I was watching a documentary a couple of weeks ago about the Irish famine, and it wasn't the hunger that there was a poet, I can't remember the person's name, but he said it wasn't the hunger that affected them, it was the very indignity of not having food. So someone is starving to death. It's the dignity or the indignity of that situation. So I think that's the greatest hope. It reminds people all over Galway that they matter, that they belong, that hope is always possible. And we've all been there in our lives when you were mentioning the fact that sometimes it's hard to hope. It's hard because it's you don't have enough money, you don't have the resources. So many people are going without services. I think you mentioned 120 families been supported by one worker. That's shocking. But at the same time, when you have that loss of hope, and I've done this many times in the field, and you're overwhelmed, but you look around and you see people helping themselves, and you see your co-workers getting out of bed again, doing it again, and that's what gives you your hope back. Is the fact that others keep going when sometimes you feel you can't. And it's that collective spirit, that Mehel, that makes it all worthwhile. This has been my own personal experience working in many, many countries, very often during major epidemics, disasters, and wars. It's organizations within and serving communities that are the most resilient, the most adaptable, the most innovative, and the most effective. They unlock the power of community. They ensure that interventions are co-designed, acceptable, and accepted. They recognize that traumatized people and communities need safety, solidarity, and dignity, not pity or charity. That is the same no matter where you are in the world. You can bring all the resources from outside in and all the expertise in the world into a situation. But if you do not understand and respect the views and aspirations of a community, if you do not involve them in the process, if you do not engage them in the delivery and the evaluation, you will fail. You will fail. I've seen it too many times. At times on the ground, I've come under pressure from people to push forward quickly. It's an emergency, for God's sake, let's move. But there's a critical moment in any enterprise, especially a public service, where you need to slow down and listen. It's like slowing down for a bend in the road. If your enthusiasm and often your own arrogance, you can accelerate and apply pressure to the pedal at the wrong time, and you lose that bend and crash. If, however, you take a beat and you slow down a little to bring the community on board with you, you can take the bend and accelerate away with that community towards success. It's so important. It's because we're all trained to get out there and do it. But if you don't stop and listen, then you're going to fail. Governments and donors do recognize that. And in Ireland, there's widespread funding of community-based organizations, which I think is a wonderful thing. I think it recognizes that delivering services through community organizations can be hugely impactful, very cost-effective, very often a better way of delivering services. But we also need to be careful here. It should not be seen as the easy or cheaper option. It's not about offloading accountability to others without the needed or adequate resources to do the job, in the knowledge that the volunteers and the staff will make up the gap in effort, make up the gap in time, and make up the gap in delivery. It is about harnessing the power, the ingenuity, and the energy of communities with the resources needed to do that job. Public procurement, community delivery. Governments are accountable to provide the resources, but delivering those services through community-based organizations, in my view, is a hugely effective way of doing that. But as you said, Michael, that has to be based on excellence and learning and innovation, not just best effort. And community organizations need to adapt to that new sort of demand as well. I know how much, talking to people at COPE, just how much they appreciate the funding they receive, and even more the work of the volunteers. But in truth, I believe we need more investment as the needs continue to grow, as was outlined by the panel. And there's a need for more social and support workers. Sinead, I think you said it, we simply must address the issue of child homelessness. It's shocking to me in a country that's as wealthy as we say we are, that that's not being addressed. And we have to support organizations that are targeting child poverty support and welfare. Gillian, as you said, we need to hold perpetrators accountable and not have victims hiding away as if they have done something wrong. So there needs to be shifts. It's not there yet. We're not perfect yet. There have to be shifts in the way we deliver care. But for 60 years, this organization has adapted to all these new challenges and changing needs. That one thing hasn't changed. Its unwavering commitment to human dignity, compassion, and community solidarity. And as we celebrate this anniversary, we're not just honoring the past, we're looking to the future, as Michael outlined, because the work isn't finished. The need for compassion, advocacy, and support remains as urgent as ever. But if the past 60 years have shown us anything, it's that when people come together with purpose and with kindness, real change and progress is possible. However, as I said before, we need those expanded services. We need to put more focus on prevention. We need to put more focus on learning and innovation. We must also reaffirm our commitment not to leave people to their fate, to change their destinies. Promises need plans. So many plans. Plans need planning. They need resources. They need implementation. They need execution. They need monitoring. And most of all, they need accountability. I can tell you in my career in international health, I've seen more plans become doorstops because there isn't the will or the resources or the accountability to get the job done. We're being bombarded right now with populist views about people, people's worth, people's value, judgments about who people are as homeless people or victims of domestic abuse or older persons. We're in a cruel phase in the public discourse in our society. We've been duped into blaming people outside or on the margins of society for our woes. Ireland must not do that. We must not be fooled or threatened by those who would threaten and manipulate us. We should not become members of the Something Must Be Done club, or it's not my job to do it club. We have to become members of I'm doing something about this club. We're now a diverse, I hope we are, or more diverse and inclusive society, seized of the values that are, I hope, truly Irish. Those of inclusion, tolerance, an overarching desire to help those that are vulnerable. A country that is not only prosperous financially, but it's rich culturally, socially inclusive, environmentally sustainable. A country where all our children can thrive, be happy, and grow. An Ireland we can be proud of, as Ireland understands, I hope, that our greatest resource is our people, not our finances, and we will not leave a single one of those people behind. In that regard, I do recognize the presence of two of my heroes, Michael T. and Sabina. And you've been spoken about many, many times. I know, Sabina, you're a patron. Michael D., you wrote the foreword for the commemorative booklet. And you've been huge supporters of COPE throughout its journey. It's a great honor for me to be able to speak in your presence, I must say. And I'm honored to do that. And I know how excited everyone is to have you here today. And you represent, I think, two people who've dedicated their lives to equality, to inclusion, to community, and to social justice. And as an Irish person who lived abroad for many years, I can tell you, nobody knows the Taoiseach, nobody knows the Taoiseach, nobody knows who any of those people are, right? They all know Michael D. Higgins, right? It was a huge source of pride for the Irish diaspora, for the hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of us who were abroad, that we had a president that was so respected internationally, seen as a truly kind and principled person whose values were so centered on human rights and human dignity, and a poet to boot. So, so it was a source of great pride for us all. So thank you both, and welcome home back to Galway belatedly. So today we celebrate a legacy built by generations before us, built by the staff, built by the community, built by the volunteers. As you said, Michael, built is a very important word. It didn't happen by accident. May the next 60 years continue to bring hope where there's hardship, safety where there's fear, and connection where there's loneliness. Congrats to you all on this remarkable anniversary, and thank you for everything you've done and will continue to do for and with our community. Happy 6th anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ryan, for your inspiring keynote address. I think your insights and passion remind us of the importance of coming together as a community to support people at vulnerable times in their lives. And of course, we can all be vulnerable at various times in our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, as we draw this event to a close, I want to extend our heartfelt thanks to everyone here today for joining us to celebrate 60 years of COPE Galway. As we look to the future, we ask you to continue to stand with us so that together we can ensure that every person in our community has the safety, support, and opportunity that they deserve. Thank you very much.